Now back to the personal stories and the personal side of things. Up next, we have Margaret Novins, who is a registered nurse for a medical company. So she's got a good, strong foundation there, but as all of you, still came up against some struggles and challenges and really learned how to be, and had a good foundation, but learned how to be a strong advocate for her father-in-law, Ron Novins, who was a patient. He, too, was lost this summer to MSA. But again, we appreciate these people who are coming forth with their stories and their help, and they're willing to talk to you. So do make use of their compassion and their willingness to work with the community. So Margaret, I'm going to turn it over to you. You learned a lot and did a lot.
Thank you. I learned what I didn't know, basically. But yes, my father-in-law. First, I want to say thank you to the support group. I've really gained so much information coming to these conferences and attending the support group at Overlook the times that I went. I even shed a few tears. It was a good place to release. Mainly, though, my father-in-law, my approach to his care was to honor thy father. We did our best. He was a challenge, though, because some of his wishes were incongruent. So he wanted his cake and he wanted to eat it too, or however that phrase goes, which was a little bit difficult. His main issues were mobility issues and poor response to almost any medication that was provided to him. So we would go to the physicians with issues, they would order meds, and it would usually cause 2 or 3 other problems in addition to what we were already dealing with. I can honestly say that each panel member that spoke and anticipating you, I can appreciate everything that you said, that the siblings, my children were in high school when my father-in-law became ill, and they didn't quite handle it as well as you did. But we did have a couple of family turmoils just before that, so we were coming off some other issues. Hospice was hugely beneficial. In fact, he was on hospice for 8 months, and he actually did fairly well most of those 8 months when we got rid of a lot of those medications that were causing so many problems. And taking care of ourselves is something that I was very negligent in. I was worried about everybody else. I didn't take good care of myself. So that is something, if you take anything away today, try to remember to take care of yourself. It makes things better. So my father-in-law had trouble with medications and mobility. The blessings that we had that I hear others struggled with, he was a champion sleeper. It was awesome. He slept all night. So we all were able to exist very nicely for those 3 years. We did have a caregiver that was with us. And again, he could rest during the night so he could be on point during the day to help us. I'm really grateful for that. I'm also grateful he did not experience pain. Every now and then he had a little headache, or I think it's called hanger pain. Cindy, do you know? That neck pain that they call it? I think they talked about it in the seminar last year, and I think it's from rigidity. And he was also fortunate to be able to eat fairly well, the foods he enjoyed, solid foods. He did, before we placed him on hospice, have aspiration, and we were told he couldn't have anything other than thickened liquids, which he right away told us in the hospital, I'm not drinking that. So I right away told the medical staff, we have to make a decision here, because either he's going to come home and dehydrate and pass, or have a feeding tube for hydration, and we can sustain him for, if that's what his choice is. And he made the choice for a feeding tube only for hydration. It wasn't intended for nutrition, but that did offer him a fairly good quality of life for a period of time that we were able to keep him hydrated, which solved some of his blood pressure issues. However, the hospital was telling us to pump him full of these fluids, and the hospital. And when we brought hospice on, they said, you're drowning him. He has too much fluids. His body is shutting down. He doesn't need all these fluids. So then I was stuck, because I said, all right, the doctors, the almighty doctors in the hospital are telling us how important it is to keep him hydrated, and you're telling me to give 8 ounces during a 24-hour period. That's what sustained him for about 6 months. He did fantastic. Too much fluids was an overload on his body. So even though it was not congruent with what I felt we needed to do, it was best for him, which is another example. I wasn't really a fan of the tube. He wanted it, so we did what we needed to do to provide the care he wanted. Another statement I just want to make is, as much as we try to be prepared, the fact is you're going to get caught unprepared. At least I did. And it was a little bit shocking that me, the one who's been a nurse for 25, 30 years, I don't know, that he's going to develop a wound in my house, which was against my rules, but it's because he wanted to sit and watch TV in his favorite chair all day. So we had to honor his wishes. This is what he asked for. So I had a conversation with the family. We did all the interventions we were supposed to do, but the fact is he's sitting in the same spot all day long. And he was very happy doing so. It wasn't bothering him, so we had to honor his wishes. Communication is really important. In fact, that's what got us through a lot of what we went through. And oddly enough, the norm of my family, his family, was not to communicate. Does anyone have any families like that you just don't talk about things and then they go away? My family that I grew up with, we talked about everything. We had family meetings. So I turned out to be the communicator with him. I would have to sit and say, Papa, what are we going to do here? What decisions are we going to make? Do you know he was a full code until the day he died? The way we got around that is, he said, if I can't speak for myself, then you make decisions for me. So if he couldn't speak for himself because he was not able to communicate, we were able to communicate, and we understood his wishes that he wanted to be able to interact with the family and participate in life. Is that someone telling me to stop talking? The last thing I do want to say is just my motto through the whole thing was to do the right thing. To do the right thing by him, to do the right thing by my kids, to do the right thing by my husband, to do the right thing by me. Others that loved him. We needed to tolerate a lot of unwanted conflict sometimes because people had to get in the middle of things that they were very good at walking in the house for 15, 20 minutes and telling us things we were doing wrong, but we knew we were doing the right thing. And it was a challenge. It was a blessing. We learned a lot. The diagnosis of MSA, it did take a little while to get, and once we got it, at least when we knew what we were dealing with, we did make the best of every day. He was able to enjoy things that were important to him. A lot of food. Food was a big topic. A lot of good food he had. But that's about it. Yeah, we did lose him over the summer. We think of him often, and we miss him. And hope that people's experience here can be as good as his was, even with the bad situation.